What if the very thing you've been taught to despise, the craving that keeps you up at night, the impulse that keeps you falling, isn't actually your greatest weakness? What if, instead, it's a deliberate, coded message? Carl Jung stumbled upon a truth so disruptive, so jarring, that the society of his time tried to bury it. He realized that addiction isn't just a failure of character, and it's certainly not a random glitch in your personality. It is, in fact, a piercing, persistent whisper from the divine. It's a language, a secret, grueling dialogue designed to drag you out of the shallows of a comfortable life and force you to confront the buried, powerful architecture of your own soul. You aren't just struggling, you are being summoned. While most of the world views addiction as a punishment, Jung understood it as a spiritual dialogue. The endless craving, the suffocating obsession, the crushing guilt, the cycle of falling and rising again, none of this is random. It is the way the divine communicates with those destined for transformation. Every addiction carries a hidden code, meant only for those brave enough to decode it. Alcohol, lust, the need for control, the chase for ambition, the reliving of trauma, these are not accidents. They are symbols of a spiritual hunger, pointing toward exactly what your soul has forgotten. Only those marked by a specific purpose experience this inner fire with such intensity. Do you feel trapped by desires you cannot release? That paradox is your proof. Jung found that the more you fight what you crave, the further you move from the lesson it is trying to teach you. Addiction isn't here to destroy you, it is here to reveal you. The divine speaks through the storm of your compulsions and the urges you don't understand. He speaks in the silence after every fall, when you can no longer recognize yourself, because that is the moment he begins to reshape you. Before you condemn your struggle, pause and listen. This may be the most intimate, rigorous conversation you have ever had, a call that can only be answered by souls chosen to awaken. There is a thirst inside you that nothing seems to satisfy. You try to fill it with substances, with people, with accolades, or with endless distractions. But no matter how much you consume, the emptiness returns with a more demanding voice. Jung called this the spiritual thirst. He believed that every addiction begins as a search for something sacred that was lost along the way. When you reach for that drink or that forbidden pleasure, you aren't just being weak. You are responding to a call you haven't yet learned to translate. Your soul is screaming for meaning, and addiction is the only language it currently knows how to speak. This thirst is ancient, yet only certain souls feel it with this relentless intensity. These are the ones Jung identified as marked, carrying a divine restlessness that makes an ordinary, complacent life impossible. Most people can move through the world without losing themselves to their desires, but you cannot. That isn't your defect. That is your sign. The thirst that cannot be quenched is evidence that something greater is trying to reach you, pulling you toward a transformation you keep resisting. Jung discovered that those struggling with addiction often carried a unique spiritual wound. Their struggle wasn't truly about the substance itself. It was a desperate attempt to touch something transcendent, something beyond a mundane reality that felt too small for their souls. They were drinking to feel connected, to feel alive, to feel anything other than the suffocating void of a world they perceived as magicless. But here is the twist. The addiction becomes the barrier. The very tool you use to satisfy your thirst becomes the prison that keeps you parched. You chase the high to escape the pain, but the high only deepens the underlying agony. It is a cruel paradox, a cycle designed to break you. Yet, Jung insisted this was intentional, a divine mechanism, a spiritual test for those strong enough to endure it. The message is always the same. What you seek outside yourself can only be found within. You have been trying to fill a God-shaped hole with material things that can never fit. Most people see this cycle and conclude they are broken or unworthy. But Jung saw that the intensity of your craving is directly proportional to the depth of your calling. The more you suffer, the greater your potential for awakening. Your thirst is not a punishment, it is preparation. You are being taught the most vital truth. Nothing in this world, not power, not pleasure, not love, will ever be enough. Once you stop fighting that realization, the thirst transforms. It stops being about filling yourself and starts being about emptying yourself. It stops being about escape and becomes an encounter. You have tried to quit 1,000 times. You have made promises to yourself, to others, and to the divine, only to fall again. Each relapse feels like evidence that you are too far gone. But what if falling isn't the opposite of rising? What if every collapse is a necessary step into the parts of yourself you have spent a lifetime avoiding? Jung believed that the cycle of addiction was a necessary descent, a true encounter with the shadow. This shadow is the dark side of your personality, the anger, the shame, the hidden desires, and the fears you pretend do not exist. Addiction acts as a catalyst, dragging these truths into the light. It strips away your social masks until you are standing naked before your own conscience. In ancient traditions, the hero must descend into the underworld before they can ascend. Your addiction is that underworld. Every relapse is another layer of illusion shattered, another false self destroyed. It feels like death, but it is actually the beginning of your rebirth. You must learn that you cannot save yourself through willpower alone. You are a fighter, used to conquering obstacles, but addiction does not respond to force. The harder you fight it, the tighter its grip. You must learn to stop fighting and start surrendering, not by giving up, but by admitting that you are facing something greater than your ego. The path forward is not up, it is down. Deeper into the darkness, further into the parts of yourself you have been running from. Those who break free do not do so by conquering their addiction, but by integrating it. They stop seeing their shadow as an enemy and start seeing it as a part of themselves that requires understanding. Each time you collapse, you are gifted a chance to see yourself more clearly. You are being asked, why do you crave what you crave? Why do you run from what you run from? There is a part of you that watches from the corner of your mind, knowing every secret and every lie. This is your shadow. It grows stronger with every truth you refuse to face. Your addiction feeds on the darkness of your denials. But God doesn't choose those who live comfortable, superficial lives for this journey. He chooses the ones whose inner darkness becomes so loud it drowns out everything else, forcing them to stop running. You cannot kill your shadow, and you cannot discipline it away. You must turn toward the darkness, look it in the face, and claim it as your own. When you finally acknowledge the anger, the selfishness, and the fear you have hidden, you don't find a monster. You find the source of your own power. You find the buried talents, the suppressed passions, and the real self you were before the world taught you to be someone else. Once you make peace with your shadow, the war ends. Jung believed this integration was the true goal of life. It isn't about becoming perfect or pure, it is about becoming whole. It is about accepting the light and the dark, the noble and the shameful, until you are finally complete. Your addiction has been a buffer, a shield to survive pain that felt insurmountable. But eventually, the shield becomes the prison. When the pain of staying the same exceeds the fear of change, you will begin to treat your wound with curiosity instead of shame. You will realize that the wound is not a mistake. It is a pathway. It is the crack where the light gets in, the broken place where healing begins for you and everyone you touch. You were chosen not for comfort, but for transformation. You were being trained in the darkness so you could carry light into places where others cannot go. If you are standing at the edge of this understanding, know this: your addiction was never your enemy. It was the messenger. You are awake now, and for a patient mind, that changes everything. The conversation is not over. The path ahead is clearer than it has ever been. Keep moving, keep listening, and keep becoming the whole person you were always destined to be.